Hey everybody, Who's Your Jedi here with another review for you. This time talking Episode 5 of Season 3 of Star Wars Rebels, Imperial Supercommandos. Now I know this is a very, very late review. If you check my recent channel update video, you'll understand why. So anyway, this is another really nice Sabine episode, and it definitely shows us some very cool stuff in terms of the Mandalorians. It's basically kind of a chance to just sort of show off. Here are some Mandalorians who fight for the Empire, and obviously take a few cues from both the Stormtroopers and the Imperial Guard, the Crimson Guards, or whatever those guys are called. They basically look cool as hell, and this is just kind of a chance to show that off while sort of moving things along in terms of Sabine's arc. This episode, for example, shows us some Mandalorians who have decided to follow the Empire, and it's the classic, following the political strongman thing that is unfortunately all too common in history, even very recent history. And it also kind of gets us this very interesting line about how apparently Sabine's family have pledged loyalty to the Empire, and that includes her mother. So obviously, Sabine's mom is going to be somebody rather important down the road. It also gives us a chance to show that, despite her youth, that Sabine is extremely formidable. She does win that hand-to-hand combat. She gets Rao to kind of come around and finally, ultimately join the rebellion. And it's all around a tough episode for her emotionally, but it's a good one for her as a character. And Rao is the sort of person that obviously would be a pretty strong asset to the rebellion. I mean, few people know more about fighting the Mandalorians. And while Sabine, as good as she is, she's still very young. And Rao is going to have a lot more experience, even if he didn't always come out on top of this episode. I mean, he was able to take Ezra down in the early part of the episode, but granted, that was mostly just because Ezra was being a complete idiot. And another thing about Ezra this episode is you notice how he never really gets to fight the Super Commandos directly for more than a couple of seconds. Because, well, even though he's occasionally an idiot, he is trained as a Jedi, and Jedi have been shown, if given a fair chance, to be able to absolutely wreck Mandalorians. Now, that's not to say that Mandalorians haven't also been shown to be able to put up a very good fight against Jedi. But if you're basically anybody who's not Karen Travis, you understand that, this is a fight that's almost always going to go in favor of the Jedi. Just to kind of give you an example, sometimes people get a little too hyped up on, people who are able to go toe-to-toe with Jedi. Like there was this one comic book they wrote years ago that showed that Jango Fett killed 30 Jedi while completely unarmed. In just like hand-to-hand combat. He's like supposed to have killed 30 Jedi. And I've read this story, and it's just utterly ridiculous. Like these 30 Jedi surround the guy while he's on, and he basically uses martial arts to just kill them one by one. And you're like, why don't these guys just use the Force to grab the guy and haul him into the air? I mean, these must be the 30 stupidest Jedi in all of history. I mean, it is pretty ridiculous. Now, again, not to say that the Mandalorians can't fight Jedi and win. It's just they really have to know what they're doing. And we're just going to leave it at that. Now, I did like that we got to see some of Ezra's other talents, such as like lying under pressure and being able to spin stories to buy himself time when he needs to. Another interesting thing about this episode is it introduces us to the character of Gar Saxon, who, as I understand it, was introduced in the comics book miniseries Darth Maul, Son of Dathomir. I'm not sure if that came out before or after Disney bought Star Wars. I think it came out before, but it's interesting that they would pluck that character from the comics to use him here in the show. And just the name just really kind of throws me. I mean, Not that Star Wars is well, Star Wars is not exactly known for being subtle with character names. I mean, the characters like Worm, Loathsome, and Savage Opress. But here, I just kept thinking of like John Sims' version of the Master from Doctor Who, and that just kept throwing me off every time I thought about this character's name. Let's see what else. Actually, yeah, that does kind of sum up everything that I did have to say about this episode. It's an interesting episode. Sets up some very cool stuff for Sabine in the future, but it really, at the end of the day, feels more like an idea, just an episode there to show off these really cool character designs they came up with for the Imperial Supercommandos. And that's all well and good, and I really do like that these guys are now officially canon. I'm sure that they'll play around with this a little bit more in the future. But still, I'm not sure if a cool character design is something to really hang an entire episode around. But nonetheless, this was quite a fun episode, so I'll let that one slide. Anyway, guys, I'm going to call it here. As always, please comment, rate, and subscribe. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Hoosier Jedi. And until next time, take care and have a good one.